All right, welcome back to Should I Live Here? And today we have Lily talking about Windermere, Florida. Lily, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us about your journey in coming to Windermere, Florida area.
All right. Well, I'm originally from New Jersey, so we lived up there. We moved for my husband's job to Wisconsin for a year. And then after that, we're like, all right, where are we going? And because it was really cold up there. So we actually went to South Florida, and I lived in a really nice town called Weston. So we wanted to move up a little bit. This was in South Florida. So we wanted to move more towards Central Florida because we loved coming up here. We came a lot to Disney, Universal and stuff. So I literally Googled city like Weston in Central Florida, and Windermere popped up. So we're like, all right. So I just started kind of looking into it. It had, from what I saw at the time, it had really good rated schools. It looked beautiful. It just looked like a really nice area. There was everything around, that we really wanted. So we just actually FaceTimed our realtor, rented a house through FaceTime, and we moved up here. So it was kind of crazy, and I love it. So we've been up here 3 years now. We rented for a year, and then we're like, yep, this is the place. And we decided to buy because we were ready to just stay here.
Smart. No, I like that, renting before kind of buying and seeing.
Yeah.
Immersing yourself first.
Yeah.
In a sense. So you're right next to Orlando.
Yeah.
So you're pretty close to, let's kind of talk about like things to do. So like it seems like you're in the heart of some of the action within Orlando. There's like a lot. It looks like I just assume there's a lot to do, but tell us about it.
Well, the funny thing is that everybody thinks that like Disney Disney in particular is in Orlando, but it's actually not. It's right below Windermere. So the cool thing about Windermere is that a good part of Windermere, even where I'm at, we actually see Disney fireworks every night, which is really cool. Isn't that cool?
That's great. Yeah.
And guess what? It never gets old. It's been 3 years. Every night, 8, 9 o'clock, I hear them. I go outside, and it never gets old.
Yeah. You're like, oh, there's a Disney fireworks.
Yeah. It's like, how cool is that, right?
Yeah.
And it's especially cool when we have people come over. Like I've had family come 4th of July and stuff, and it's like, you're seeing Disney fireworks. Like, do you realize it? Like how cool that is? Yeah. Right from Magic Kingdom. So there's just so much to do around here because we're kind of away from the touristy things, kind of nestled in this, our own little private area because the tourists don't come as far as here. We're southwest of Orlando, but then the cool thing is we're still close enough to everything. So Disney's right here. I'm probably about 15 minutes away from Magic Kingdom. Some of the other ones, maybe 20, 25. I'm about 20, 25 minutes from Universal as well. About the same for SeaWorld. Just the location is amazing. I can get to Orlando. The joke is, how long does it take you to get to Orlando? It could be 25 minutes. It can be 2 hours. So it's kind of, that depends on Orlando traffic. But the cool thing is we can get to everything really quickly. I mean, whatever restaurant you want to eat at, whatever, we can get to the touristy areas, and it's cool. Like to watch a movie, we go to Disney Springs. That's the closest movie theater. And it's like this super amazing movie theater compared to, any other one in a small town. So it's just an amazing area because not even necessarily a ton to do in Windermere, although there are some awesome things here, but just the fact that we have everything around us. So we are in kind of the middle of Florida, so we don't have beaches, but even then, within probably about an hour, either way, we can get to the beach. We can either go on the West Coast or on the East Coast, depending on the type of beach that you want. So there's just so many awesome things.
That's really neat because you can kind of pick between like, do I want to this side of the beach or like in terms of I guess more. Yeah. What would that be, like the Gulf on the east side is more?
Yeah.
Like,
so I personally like going more on the west side because it is the Gulf. So it's a lot smoother. There aren't as many waves, but some of the things we've had in the past few years has been red tide, with a lot of algae and stuff. So hasn't been the best, but I just like those beaches. They're just a lot calmer overall. Yeah.
That's good to know. Yeah, I would never know that until you actually visit the beaches yourself. That's kind of like here in Southern California. Like certain beaches are more rocky, certain beaches are more better to lay on the sand. It kind of depends what you're going for. So
yeah, exactly.
Right on. And how close to the airport?
So that's another good thing is we're about 25 minutes 30 minutes, 2 hours, depends. No, but usually it's a good like 25 minutes to the airport, which actually is one of the reasons we wanted to move up here, because my husband travels a lot for work. So we needed somewhere that was kind of away from everything, but still close enough. So the airport is super easy to get to. And it's an airport that flies pretty much everywhere. So regardless of where you want to go, just because it's such a big airport, it's the place to go.
Yeah. How is the Orlando airport? I've never been through that one.
It's pretty big. To get from terminal to terminal, you actually also have to get on, I guess, a train or shuttle kind of thing. So it is pretty massive. But the good thing is there are flights coming in from all over the place, including smaller airports. So I have one of my brothers lives in Connecticut, and he's by this tiny little airport. And for $50, he can get from this tiny little airport in Connecticut down to Orlando, which is awesome. Just because there's constantly flights coming in. So there's a lot of flights all the time. So it's really easy to get wherever you want to go.
Excellent. That's good. That's good to hear. Yeah, LAX is not the best airport, so they're working on it.
I've been there.
Yes, they've been working on it. Let's just say that. Yeah. It's a long progress.
I mean, we have really long lines like TSA and everything, so you have to get there early, but you'll go anywhere you want to go pretty much.
That's great. Okay. Let's shift gears into the cost of living. So tell us about Windermere cost of living, low, medium, high kind of deal.
So that's probably the one I was trying to think of, like cons and pros and cons of Windermere, and that's honestly probably the con. Is Windermere's one of the most affluent towns around here in Central Florida. So it's a little pricey compared to some of the other areas in Florida. Coming from New Jersey, New York, kind of that area with the really high taxes, one of the good things is the taxes down here are super low in comparison. Yeah. But the overall kind of cost of living, especially the housing, the housing market over here, for example, in Windermere, you can't really get new construction. There just isn't a lot available. And then the ones that are in the like 1.1 million plus range. So it's not as affordable for everybody, for sure. Rents are pretty high. Even a small 1-bedroom apartment is probably going to cost you about $2,000. So it's a little expensive. And then I notice a lot of people, especially people that work at Disney and things like that, sometimes they'll share. Instead of renting one apartment, it's so expensive. It almost makes more sense sometimes to have some roommates in a like single family house or in an apartment that has more bedrooms. So I notice a lot of people do wind up making it a little bit more affordable by having roommates that way. But overall, it's pretty pricey. I was just looking it up. The lowest house, it's said about $280, but I mean, that's you got to pretty much gut the place at that. It's a renovation. Yeah, some renovation. It's not like you're gonna move into that kind of house, but the median was about in the 800s.
Got it. Yeah, no, definitely more of an affluent area, which kind of makes sense. Proximity to a lot of great jobs, I'm sure, in Orlando kind of area.
A lot of sports figures, actors, a lot of the execs for Disney, and we have a lot of really big companies in Orlando. So a lot of the execs and celebrities live out here. So I know when I first moved here 3 years ago, Shaq's house was actually for sale. It's about 7 minutes from me. And it's funny because like you pass, all you could see is like the blue roof, the one that was on MTV Cribs a long time ago, which is funny. So it's pretty cool.
I think I remember that episode. That's so funny.
With the Superman pool?
I just remember it had like a massive bed. Like it was like a circle, huge bed. And you're like, dang, that's a really, how do you even you have to crawl in there? Like, cause he's really big.
Yeah. So there are a lot of celebrities around here because of that, because there's a lot of gated communities also. So that kind of gives them their privacy. So they're able to kind of enjoy it. Yeah.
Okay. Is that's kind of like a part of, certain, maybe just the culture of the city, just more gated type of places?
Windermere's kind of funny where there's kind of two sections of Windermere. There's the east and the west. So the east is about 2 miles and it's kind of like old Windermere, and it's actually the town of Windermere. And that one is kind of older homes but like beautiful luxury homes. And that's a lot of gated communities and smaller communities. And then we have the west side, which is technically Windermere, but it's also unincorporated Orange County. So that one has some newer, and by newer, like the house I live in is kind of newer in that area, and that's like almost 20 years old. So there's kind of the two differentiating areas of Windermere, but both have kind of high end luxury. But the east part, kind of the older part, has a lot of charm to it. Like it's such a nice area. Isleworth is the community where the celebs live. It's just, I mean, amazing, amazing community. Yeah.
So some more of like the older town.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
feel.
So it's like those like amazing older but like super luxurious homes. Yeah.
Got it. Is it, what's like the architecture in the east side more like?
Well, the cool thing about this whole area is it's really different. So a lot of kind of the surrounding areas around here, like Winter Garden and some of the other areas, there's a lot of new communities, and they're very cookie cutter, where like every single home, there's like 3 models and you pick from the 3 and that's it. Well, the cool thing about Windermere is because it's a little bit more high end, people are able to customize their homes. So the homes aren't all the same. I mean, there's kind of Mediterranean, but then there's more modern. There's actually, I pass by a lot of like super modern homes, and I think they're so cool looking because it's so different. So that's the cool thing. You go in a community and they all look so different styles, different sizes, different everything, because it's a little bit more customizable. It's not that cookie cutter, you're going into a community and all the houses are built already, or pretty much. So it varies, which is cool.
That's great. That's fantastic. Yeah, gated communities, it's not for everyone. I think it just depends on your preference and what you're going for. What about like, so gated communities is a big thing in Windermere. Like, what about outside of that? Like, maybe just like little pockets of not gated communities?
Yeah, so like I don't live in a gated community. I have, there are communities everywhere. Like everything's kind of broken down into communities, which is pretty cool because so like the community I live in, for example, it's not gated, but it's still its own little community, right? Like we're off of one of the bigger roads, and it's like there's still a nice little entrance when you walk in there, but it's not like gated. There's not a guard or anything like that, but it's still kind of secluded. And each community kind of has their own little charm and personality. They usually have a pool, even though a lot of houses have pools as well. But all the communities around here, for the most part, do have pools, some tennis courts, basketball courts, things like that. So within each community are, already things that you can do there. So you can just kind of be in your own little community and have a lot of cool things. Like if you drive around, especially come May, every community on the outside will have like a wide garage sale sign out there. So it's kind of separate, but then you're able to still go in the communities. But really, you kind of, unless you want to drive around and look at communities, it's really no point. And every community usually has its own little lake, or like fishing, all sorts of things that you can do within your community already.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's dive into a little bit like more of the culture of like living in Windermere or the surrounding area. Yeah, how would you describe the culture?
I think it's like, I love living up here just because it's really diverse. What I was saying, I lived in Wisconsin for a year, and it was just so different. I just felt like it was just, I know, it was very quiet, and and there weren't that many people in the town. And I feel like here it's big but small. So Windermere itself is kind of small, but then the community around, we're all so close. Like we're kind of almost in between. Like where I live, if I go to the east, I'm in Winter Garden, but also if I go to the west, I'm in Winter Garden. So it's kind of funny the way that works. If we go down, it's where the touristy areas are. So kind of to get from one point in Windermere to another, you're either going up, down, or across. And that's actually what takes the longest, because there's so many lakes around here. So
they're like surrounded by water.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Sense.
So to go through Windermere, it takes forever, because you have to pass, these little like if you pass on what we call Main Street in Windermere and kind of just to get there, it's one lane on each side. So if there's an accident or something, it's going to take you forever to get through. But so it's got like that kind of charm of being small and kind of secluded, but then also everything's around. So there's, you know, culturally everything, which is awesome. There's different types of stores, like just within probably 5 minutes of me, there's a Brazilian store. And then of course we have like regular stuff, Publix, things like that. Restaurants, there's a huge mix of things as well. They just opened an awesome Indian place and it's right next to a Mexican place. It's right, like, so culturally there's just a lot of different things around. Yeah, so it's so cool. And I really like that because, you know, I like to be exposed to those things, but I think it's important also to have our kids exposed to those things, like just everything different, not, you know, well, it's all this. There's just, you know, the regular basic restaurants. No, we have a lot of small businesses, a lot of different cultures here. So that's always a good thing.
That is a good thing, to have exposure to a lot of cultures. I think it's super important to have exposure to cultures. That's good to hear. It sounds like it's very diverse in the area. So naturally, and I know Florida, you guys are pretty close to Central, kind of South America. So I'm sure that has an impact on people flying, you know, on the culture of within Florida, especially more. You guys are center, but more down south, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have like, you know, a lot of people work at Disney from all over too. And a lot of them, like I was saying, also live over here in Windermere and kind of the surrounding areas, of course, to work there. So there's people like from everywhere. And a lot of people move here from other places. So actually, it's funny, when I moved in here, I was introducing myself to my neighbors. I'm like, hi, you know, I'm originally from New Jersey. And my neighbor's like, yeah, me too. And then I met the other neighbor and I'm like, hi, I'm from New Jersey. And they're like, yeah, me too. So it's funny. There's so many like New Yorkers from New Jersey, a lot of people from the Midwest. I mean, there's all sorts of people. And it's actually hard to find a native Floridian. That's the hard part. There are people from everywhere. Yeah.
That's so,
I mean, like me, like I came to vacation here a bunch of times and I'm like, we love it. Let's move there. You know?
Yeah. No, that's, wow. It's like, careful if you go travel to Windermere, you might end up living there. You might want to move. That's so cool. Okay, let's go into like the weather. So Florida weather, break it down for us.
Yeah. So Florida weather is interesting. It gets really hot in the summer, but the summer is rainy season actually. So just about every day it rains at some point. And for the most part, it's like a 10-minute crazy storm. It's like you'll look outside and it looks like it's a hurricane out there. And then all of a sudden you look outside again and it's sunny and it looks like it never rained. But daily for months, from like March to September or so, it is pretty much like that every day. But overall, it's nice. I like having the warm weather. We do have some chilly weeks, I would say, in the winter. The last year or two, we've had a little bit colder than normal. So we've had this last year, it kind of got into freezing areas. So it did ruin like I had some banana trees in the back and they did get ruined because it did get a little bit too cold. So it got down to the 30s, but it doesn't really go much lower than that. And even when it's really cold, we'll probably hit like 40 overnight and then it'll be probably 60 during the day. So Florida weather, yeah. Typical. It's hot, it's humid as can be. My thing, like, it was hard when I first moved here because I'm like, how am I going to survive this? It's so hot. My advice and what I learned like literally day 2 is I just carry a water bottle all the time. I always have my big cup with some ice and some water or whatever, some iced tea or whatever. And I just carry that everywhere. It's always in my car. I actually have in my car, I have a little cooler and I don't have ice in it all the time, but I just keep some drinks in there. So they might not be the coldest, but at least they're not hot. So that is the most important thing, is just do that. Always have water. And then honestly, we don't do as many outdoor things in the summer just because we don't have to. So for example, going to Disney, I try not to go as much in the summer because it is really, really hot. Also, that's the time that we have a lot of tourism. So it is a little bit more crowded anyway. So I kind of take advantage of the winter time, the fall. Those are the best times that we that actually live around here love to go to the theme parks.
Pro
We
tip.
kind of just flip it a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
But
That's
then
an,
the cool part with the weather being like that is my family loves to come down for Christmas because you're barbecuing for Christmas. Like, how cool is that?
yeah.
You're having like an outside barbecue. We're going to the theme parks and it's not super hot. So it's perfect. We
Okay.
just got to flip it a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. As a native, yeah, you kind of avoid the high tides for certain places. So
Oh, yeah.
that's great. I can imagine there's so much to do around there. But what about like schools and people with families like moving down, thinking about moving down there? What would you kind of recommend, or how are the schools down there?
So the schools in Windermere are pretty highly rated. We have some really great public schools, but then there are also a lot of really good private schools around here because, again, it's more of an affluent area. So a lot of people do choose to put their kids in the private schools. And there's some really good ones around here. Windermere Prep is a huge one. It's actually not too far from me. It is a huge school, and a lot of people love to send their kids there, especially since, like I said, there's a lot of celebrities and
Hmm.
people like that around here. So we have a lot of different private schools and a lot of options, but the public schools are not a bad option. There are some really good, highly rated public schools also. And it's a booming area. So they're constantly building new schools. So, to try to kind of help with the population in the schools and try to, not have so many kids in each school. So just since we've moved here 3 years ago, my oldest started at the middle school 3 years ago. There's a new high school that just opened up last year. There's a new middle school opening up this year. So there's definitely
Wow.
a lot of different movement with the
Yeah.
schools around here.
Yeah. So you guys need teachers, I'm assuming. So
Yes.
if you're watching this and you're a teacher, check it out.
And actually, this is a cool thing about Florida in general. So Florida, if you live in Florida, you're also able to go to Florida virtual school for free,
Oh.
which is an awesome option. So last year, my oldest was kind of struggling with school, and I felt like we needed to kind of do a more hands-on approach. And they have different options for that. So they have Florida virtual school, and then the county also has school. So Orange County has an Orange County virtual school, which is pretty cool. So besides just, public and private, you also have access to free virtual school, which is a really good option. And the virtual school itself has two options, where one is teacher led. So the teacher, you can basically log in like you would do like a virtual school. You're logging in at 8 a.m., whatever it is, and you're spending the day with the teacher, but virtually. And then they have a homeschool option, which is Florida Virtual School Flex, in which it's technically homeschool and the parents, the teacher, but you actually have access to the teachers all for free, which I think is amazing.
That's great. That's wait, because I don't other states.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
leave it in the comments if you know any other
Yeah.
states that do that, because
Yeah, I'll look it up.
I know Florida. Florida is very unique, and they do their own thing in a sense,
They do.
which is love it or hate it if you're moving there, or if you're I'm in California, so I can't say anything like, oh, you should run your state this way. Like I don't even live there, so
Yeah.
but
And then another cool thing about Florida, I have a special needs kid. So Florida actually has some scholarships for kids that might have some special needs to help them go to private school. So I think that's a really good option as well. Because I think that especially parents with special needs kids, it's hard to find, sometimes the public school is not meeting their needs, and it's hard to find private school options for them, especially affordable ones. So the fact that Florida does that, and it's pretty easy for you to qualify for it, they honestly don't ask for much. They ask for an IEP and things, but it was pretty easy, and it helped pay for almost the majority of my son's school. So it's super helpful as well.
That's fantastic. Yeah, no, that's amazing actually, because I know I work at a school in the special ed department. I know they work really hard. It's a charter school though, so it's a little different, but it's no easy task that they have, and sometimes certain schools they don't have maybe the dedicated resources that they need to support certain students. So that's awesome that Florida is embracing like just very multiple approaches to kind of, because there's no one size fits all for students.
But kind of going back to what you were saying about we need teachers, we do. That is kind of one of the things about the schools around here is just I wish we had more teachers. But kind of one of the issues is that just overall, Florida doesn't pay as well as some of the other states. So it's a little bit harder to attract teachers, especially in places like Windermere, because the pay is not as good. I mean, the teachers in Windermere can't necessarily live in Windermere off of their teacher salary, which is sad, right? So that makes it a little tough. And we definitely need teachers. We need, aides and different staff around here. So that's one of the things. They're always looking for teachers. They're looking for substitutes because of the pay is not that great, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, hey, that's the truth. That's just like certain places, which, it has an impact if, depending on like wages and stuff. And I mean, that's not uncommon with super affluent areas in terms of the people that work there can't afford to live there. But
I know.
It's like sad, but it's just kind of, I don't know. We don't make the rules.
I know.
Like, that's how it goes sometimes. All right. And so with overall, like Windermere, is there anything like surprising about the area where you're like, you know what, I didn't expect that, but we're gonna roll with it? Like, it's kind of how it is.
Not really. I looked everything up online before we moved, and I feel like it was pretty accurate. Some of the cool things is there's a lot of nature around here. Like every street you go has a ton of trees. It's really well manicured. Like everywhere you go, it's just so nice looking. And most of the houses, or I guess most of them are in a HOA. So the HOA really does maintain all the not all the yards, we usually have to do our own, but at least they're making sure that you're keeping your house and your yard and everything nice. So it looks really, really nice around here. It's kind of like, sometimes you look down a street, especially when I'm showing houses, I'm like, this looks like a movie or a picture. Like it just looks so perfect, and these beautiful green yards, like, so it's just almost weird how perfect it looks in most areas. Like it's like there's constantly landscapers. You hear them just about every day because they're either doing your yard or the neighbor's yard or whatever. So that's so cool. And then the lake situation is amazing. So right in Windermere, there's something called the Butler Chain of Lakes, and there's 13 lakes. And it's pretty cool because a lot of houses do have access to the lakes. Like if you live in kind of that east part of Windermere, you do have access to that. And you have access actually to other things. You have like deeded access to the lakes. You have deeded access to the tennis courts and things like that. You can use all those things. So the lake situation is actually really cool because I didn't realize like a lot of people have lakes. Actually, somebody that lives near me, the lake right here by my house, there's somebody that has a seaplane, like a legit big yellow seaplane. If you've ever seen in the movies, like it can go in the air and then it like lands on the water.
Whoa.
Like it looks like a movie or a cartoon or something. Like people have seaplane, like legit, like this is in somebody's backyard. It's so funny.
Living their best life out there. Dang.
And also I see people in the lakes here just like jet skis, water skis, like all sorts of things. The fishing, and I'm like, do we really have good fish here? But I found out, which was a little surprising, that the communities actually, I was reading the budget, the communities actually buy fish to put into the community lakes so that you can go fishing. Isn't that pretty cool?
That's awesome. I'm for it. So you buy like little, I'm sure they buy small fish and like they get big,
and then they'll grow in there. Yeah, isn't that cool?
That's awesome.
That was so funny.
Yeah, that's smart. It's like people get to do some awesome recreation activity, and they also get to get some food. So keeps everyone happy and healthy. So
yeah,
I'm for it. That is cool. So it's very much like lake boat culture kind of thing where people, it's common. It's like it's normal. So
and pools, like everybody, like we live at the pool, and it's like if you don't have your own pool, the community has one. So that's kind of how we stay cool, and that's just kind of like where we hang out with people. We're like, hey, you want to go to the pool? And we kind of even go to each other's community pools too. Like if your friends are hanging out and you don't have a pool, you just all go to the community pool together. So it's a lot, we live in bathing suits, I would say.
Oh, cool. Hey, I'm all for it. I love the beach. I'm all very outdoorsy kind of a person. So, and if not, I'm sure you have plenty of good AC.
Oh yeah.
You have to have good AC in Florida. So.
And then Windermere, so the town of Windermere, they also have some pretty cool community things. So once a month we have a food truck night, which is probably my favorite.
Wow.
They line up Main Street with all sorts of different food. I love food, okay? So
Same.
Epcot's my favorite because you go around. I don't know if you've ever been to Epcot.
Mm-mm.
You basically go around Epcot and it's around the world. There's different countries and there's different types of food. So that is my favorite to do at Epcot. But Windermere does that, and actually some of the communities do that as well. Well, they'll have like Food Truck Friday or whatever, and they'll have 3 or 4. When Windermere does it, it's a whole bunch of them. Like it's a whole event. They do that once a month. They have all sorts of food trucks lined up. They have some live bands playing, and it's a really cool community thing to do. And then also on Fridays we have farmers markets in Windermere, and it's pretty cool. You know, fresh fruit, fresh cheese, a lot of fresh seafood, and then a lot of just small businesses around here, which I think is really cool. Just selling their things, all sorts of things you can get there.
Yeah, is that like a seasonal type of thing, or is that like?
They do it year round, actually.
Oh wow!
Very few times is it actually canceled.
Wow, that is actually surprising. Usually it's like a spring, summer, like fall kind of thing. So.
Well, but here, because of the weather, where winter it's not that cold anyway, so it's year round. And then around the holidays there's usually, you know, some holiday extra ones where they actually wind up being a little bit bigger in the winter because of that, because they're getting ready for the holidays, so a lot more exhibitors, a lot more people. So it's always a good thing. There's a lot of just small businesses in general around here, just for everything. So, you know, we definitely have the chain restaurants and, you know, the chain stores as well, but there's so many small businesses and small restaurants and things. So I love to just support kind of the local economy and the local businesses around. So there's everything here.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm all for the small businesses, family businesses. It's good to support. So just kind of closing out, for thinking about visiting Windermere, what would you recommend? Like, what are some places, maybe some communities we should probably check out?
I would say go down Main Street. Main Street is a beautiful, beautiful spot. So not only does it look just absolutely beautiful, it's got like this small town charm, I guess, to it. It's got a lot of little small businesses, so little cafes with the chairs outside. You can kind of sit and eat. If you come on a Friday, you can go to the farmers market, which I think is amazing. So that's the number one spot I would say to go visit. Because besides that, it's close to everything, but within the town, you know, there's a lot of communities, but not necessarily, you know, we don't have theme parks in Windermere or anything fun like that, but we have some kind of small things like that to do. Really good restaurants around here, for sure.
That's a pro tip though, like making sure that you have Friday to explore kind of the area, because it seems like the city or the town is pretty alive that day. So you're gonna want to be there during that time if you're visiting, so you can kind of get the full, especially if you're only there for a couple of days, you want to get the full experience of what it's like to live there. So well, cool. This is such good info, Lily. I really appreciate you giving this. We're gonna put your information top and down below, so you'll be able to access you via text, email. But what's the best way to reach out to you?
The best way is probably just call or text.
Cool.
Because it comes right to my phone, and I'll put the number. It's 407-747-1751.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you again for checking this out. If you have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to Lily, and she will definitely be able to help you. So, cool. Thanks again for being here. Until next time.
Thank you so much.